over there
No.
either.
So I've actually looked into that. So we're gonna do a veggie burger. I actually have been testing. I want you to try that thing out. But it is gonna be on bread, you know. I
But
mean,
just order it. Have an option where you can do it without bread.
right. And so we went through. I was developing because I've been researching and I like, so I do a lot of catering for the Shark Players for Potenza, and he gives me these challenges that are like, dude, I need you to use this like ghee butter and this or walnut oil or this or that. We need the proper fats, this or. But he's also, protein is a big part. We have to have protein.
Yeah.
Welcome, I'm Chef Rodney Baca, and this is ShopTalk. Welcome to ShopTalk with Chef Rodney Baca. Have a great friend, someone I've wanted to get on the show for a while, Mr. Martin Menne. He's not only a developer, he owns his companies, he has his hands in a couple of different things, the restaurateur, beverage stuff. Man, you're all over. Great to have you here.
Thanks a lot. Good to be here.
So I want to start with the music part first, if I may.
All right.
I hear about you being a musician. I don't know if I ever told you, but back in the late 90s, I was part of a band called Rodney Baca and the Baclavas.
You never told me that.
Because
I'm saving that.
Yeah, we were an opera breakdance
What'd
group.
you play?
No, I'm kidding. We never did. I've always been fascinated by music. What got you into that?
So when I was a younger kid, I had guitar lessons. My mom gave them to me in third grade, and I started to play a little guitar, and then kind of stuck with it off and on. And then through college, I played with a little bit. I never was in any bands. I never got very serious at all. And then when I, in my 40s, had some time, I had kids, decided to pick up guitar again. And I went and found a guy to give me some lessons and kind of get me back on track. And from that point on, I just kind of kept doing it. And then connected with some friends that had, different skills in different instruments. And so we got together and we've been playing in this band now for, 10 or 12 years.
See, that's awesome.
And it's a good offset of the daily kind of business grind. And it's a
therapeutic, I'd say, right?
It is. It's the other side of your brain. It's the artistic side of your brain. You aren't thinking about whatever problems in business you have that day. You're completely focused with your buddies, you're going through music and you're thinking in a different context. So that part of it becomes really therapeutic. And I think that for everybody, whether it's music or painting or any artistic side, and some people say, oh, I'm not artistic, I can't do that kind of stuff. It's in you in some way. You just have to kind of discover where is it, what am I good at, or what do I like? And you don't have to be good at it. Just go use that side of your brain.
Something you enjoy. And that's the key, you know what I mean? Because it takes you away from, like you said, the everyday grind.
Yeah.
But what I'm wondering is, I wonder during these sessions, do you get any like business thoughts come in? Is it clear? Do things happen that that like, what, this makes sense now?
Clarity on stuff. A little bit. We're all, the guys in our band are pretty much in the similar industry, in the real estate industry, in different facets of it. So we're always kicking things around that they experience that day. So there's a little bit of that going on, but I almost deliberately don't want to go there too much.
Sure.
Because then all it takes is one topic and it takes you off onto this tangent of whether it's stress or things that you don't want to get into when you're enjoying time with your friends and playing music and being artistic.
Well, it could go from playing like Elton John to Slayer real quick, huh? I mean, that could happen.
You start grinding.
So that's funny. So I have a question. I hear we're an SC grad.
Yeah, I am an SC grad.
So are you still involved with SC at all?
I am. My wife and I met there. My family, for the most part, everybody went to school there. Most people went to school there. And then my 3 daughters, all 2 of them are there now. 1 graduated from there. So I'm just growing up where I grew up in Southern California. It was just a big part of our life. And pretty much as a kid, that's what I was exposed to. So it's great. Yeah, I'm involved. I'm down there all the time.
Is UCLA a bad word in your house?
It kind of is, yeah. You start to go down that path, and it's always just the rivalry thing, and that's really fun.
Right.
I mean, that part of it makes it, it kind of keeps you in that young mindset. And I love talking to my girls about whatever they have going on with school, or trips, or their sorority, or whatever it is. So it keeps you feeling like you're young still.
So I used to work at the Jonathan Club, if you're
You
familiar.
did?
Yeah, I
know
used to
well.
run the Jonathan Club downtown.
It's one of the best bars downtown.
Isn't it cool?
Before the game, that's where we go. We go to the Jonathan J Club.
That was funny because I drive by SC all the time, and the school is so beautiful, but the surrounding area, it's a crazy dynamic of how it works, you know?
Anybody that isn't familiar with that whole program of where it's located can't believe that it's as popular as it is, because you really are an island in there.
Yeah.
And you go the wrong direction 1 or 2 blocks and all of a sudden you're in a whole different world. But even my girls, you just learn what you do and what you don't do. It's like any urban area. You talk about being in Paris. I mean,
right.
You can go to a section of Paris that you'd be terrified to walk through.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's you just got to be smart about it. And I think what that does is it makes you really aware as you grow of your surroundings, as you start to travel or go to these different cities, that you have to be really conscious of where you're at, who's around you, what risk there would be there. And once you get to that point, it's really not a big problem.
And I agree with you. I also, when you're saying that, my mind's running saying, but I believe too, for kids and everything, they need to be exposed to the world, if you will. I mean, in a kind of safe setting to the best of their ability. But how much do you see kids that grow when they're able to go to like an SC or to travel to Europe or to do these other things?
So a couple examples where my kids all went to school abroad when they were their first year in college. So in the case of my twins, my youngest are twins, and when they first got into USC, they were what's called a spring admin. So you have to wait till the spring to get in. It's kind of honorable mention almost, where it's like it's awesome. So hard to get in that they get you in the spring, and if you're really into it, which they were, then you can go to one of the abroad programs. And so when they chose Rome at 18 years old, my wife and I
worked there, by the way, Park Boscolo Hotel. I'm giving you a shout out.
But I talk about you grow up real quick.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're suddenly thrown in. Now they had each other. My oldest went to Paris for a year, so she was 18 years old by herself, didn't know a single person, and really had a challenging time. But the benefit of it is, if you can get through it and you grow real quick, and all of a sudden when you're out and back to the U.S. or wherever, you can handle anything.
Sure,
and so
I agree.
Whether it's interpreting, French menus or going to the bank in Paris, which, is a whole different experience. All those things may be a challenge to them, but it gets them out of their comfort zone. And on the backside, all of a sudden they can take some of these big challenges and they have total confidence to do it. So
they're somewhat prepared in a sense too, I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not, I think today kids tend to be very coddled. Parents are very involved, to a certain level they should be, but almost to an excess extent where the kids on their own all of a sudden can't do their laundry.
Sometimes you got to let them fail, as the
adage,
right?
Let them go fail.
Yeah.
Let them, watch over them, have them be safe, but make sure that they have a chance to fall down and get back up. And I think those are all good things for kids, and I think there needs to be more of that.
I'll tell you, when you said Paris, it reminds me of my old boss. He's from Nice, actually, in France, and he would give me his menu in French and say, go teach the guys how to do this. That's the world I came from,
you know? No background in French.
I have no background in French, so at this time, I'm not a computer savvy guy, not that I am now, but I'm looking at, French to English translations and all this stuff. Just crazy. But those are the things that we had to go through when we were younger. Those are things that were like a challenge. It was like, wow. And speaking of challenges, I'm going to take you in a different direction. I have always been fascinated with all the stuff that you do. And I was curious, when you see a building, what goes to your mind? Like, can I transform this? Can I make this to this? What do I want to do? Is it an art that you see? What goes through your mind with that?
Well, I mean, we're very fortunate here to live where we live. Silicon Valley obviously is one of the most dynamic real estate markets in the world.
Right.
And so we, by where we live, are very lucky to have a lot of opportunities we can do just that. You can look at a building and say, oh, that's underutilized. Let's look at what's happening there. Is it struggling? Why is it struggling? Is there things we can do to all of a sudden create value? And, I think a lot of it just takes time and experience. Back to sort of the kids when they get out of school. I talk to a lot of kids that they get out of college and they say, "Oh, I want to do development. I want to get into the development. I want to be a developer." And the thing with that, with the industry, is that it takes a lot of just on the street experience that takes you through different experiences of learning what works, what doesn't work, and you just can't go to college and in your 20s think that you're going to jump in. I mean, there's exceptions for like anything, but for the most part, you're tapping into all those years when there were up markets and down markets. And where's the opportunity in a down market, and where's the opportunity in an up market, and how can you create those opportunities and value to where you can make something happen and create an opportunity. So it's really a matter of looking at what do you want to do with a building that is maybe out of the box and somebody else maybe hasn't thought of it, and take a chance with it. I mean, this project here, the market here they thought we were crazy, and at a time it was in a down market and there was city-owned land, and that's a whole saga story of how this whole thing came together.
Right.
It was very much out of the box. This assemblage wasn't necessarily a simple thing to figure out, and we were just lucky to be able to kind of brainstorm, have the right relationships with people, and created something that's been pretty cool. But sometimes it doesn't work. I mean, that's the other side of it, is that sometimes the projects that you think this is a no-brainer, we're gonna do really well with this, all of a sudden it doesn't turn out that way. And then some that are the things that you think is going to be a real struggle, something changes and all of a sudden you've got something you never dreamed was going to be successful. So that is just the nature of the business.
It's almost a crapshoot sometimes.
It is. Well, and I think the development business, I think people, certainly cities think that if you have a development, you get an approval for a project, it's a home run, you're going to make so much money, and these guys got a tower approved. And there is so much experience, luck, and things out of your control that have to go the right way to be successful. And there's a lot of them that go the other direction, and you can lose a lot of money. And it's not a slam dunk by any stretch to get these projects, even in our dynamic market here.
Right.
So it's there is a lot of luck, but it's just experience and putting the pieces together.
On that, if I can ask you, so through the years, how do you develop that team? I mean, because it seems like that's a team effort.
Yeah.
And using a sports analogy, I mean, you're only as good as your weakest link. Yeah. And so it's like, how do you develop that? That's years, I'm assuming.
Years, and that's back to the same concept. You can't show up. It takes so many competent people that you can trust. Like anything, there's a lot of sharks out there, and all of a sudden they say, here's the young guy coming up, and he's kind of over his head, and they'll take you for a ride. And there's so many components that go into these real estate projects, from the early stages of consultants and engineers, and then ultimately contractors and marketing people. There's a array of people that, you have to have a lot of experience with those people to be able to really assemble and trust that the cost on the back end and the result on the back end is going to be what you think. And I don't know if there's any other option other than experience. And maybe if you have a partner or a father or somebody that has gone through it and has a lot of these connections and relationships.
And mentorship, for that matter.
Yeah. That part of it, I think, happens a lot as well. But that just, there's not, it's so different than, say, the tech industry, where if you're a brilliant coder or electronics and computers, genius, you can come out of school and you can pretty quickly have extreme success, as these people have shown with starting companies and all that. In the real estate industry, it's not, there's a lot more experience necessary that you can't really get out of a class or experience.
I look at the whole thing, Martin, because you have development, you have management, you have contracts, you have, there's so much of legality that goes with it. You have to deal with the city for permitting, for this, for that. It's like an ongoing saga. And that's why when I say, you've been knee deep in all of that.
And financing,
it's crazy. Yeah.
The loan to make, again, the bigger projects, the financing component is critical, and to know how much you can push. All of those things, it's just experience, and you have to be pretty good at a lot of specialties. If you're good at numbers and you're good at the numerical side of it, and that's great, but you also have to be pretty good in understanding construction, pretty good at working with people, negotiating agreements, and dealing with the city relationships. All of those things, you have to be decent at all of them, and again, time and experience is the whole.
My bosses used to tell me when I was coming up in the cooking industry, very different, but what they would say is, you need to know a little about everything so no one can BS you.
Yeah, that's it. Same
and
thing.
it seems similar in that aspect,
It is. Yeah.
So I have a question for you. I hear you're the accomplished pilot.
Yeah, I've been flying a long time. Yeah.
What got you into it? I know you like cars, which I want to ask you about, but what got you from the driving side to the flying side?
So I started flying in my mid-20s. I was working for a development company down in Ventura County, and I lived. It wasn't a lot of people have a passion of it. At 10 years old, they're building airplane models, and they're like, they can't wait. I wasn't really like that. It was more, to me, in my 20s, I was dating my now wife, who lived up in Northern California, and I lived close to an airport, and I had a cousin actually that went and took a flying lesson. He said, "You got to go try this out. It's really fun. They let you fly the first time." And
if I may ask you to say something, that's how you pick up a girl, ladies and gentlemen. You fly and pick them up.
Yeah, and like I said, I was more thinking about, it would be a great way to go visit my girlfriend. And so I just went to the airport and took a lesson. And, from that point on, I was flying.
Single engine Cessna?
Yeah, oh yeah. So that's how you start. Single engine Cessna.
I took a lesson on that too. And I was like, wow, this fat guy doesn't need to be in a plane because I'm freaking out right now.
Yeah, well, it's super exciting to me. I mean, of all the fun things I like to do, the flying thing is definitely the biggest passion. I mean, it never ends. You always are learning something new. And over the years, I've kind of, and no matter what airplane you're in, you say, you get into an airplane and you say, this is the perfect one, I love. And then you always look over, there's always something new. It goes a little faster or a little higher. I can carry more people. I can go farther.
Yeah.
So you're always looking at that. And so it sort of gives you this motivation to work through the lineup of the different planes and things. So I love it.
What's the longest trip you've taken?
I've flown to New York. I've flown down into Mexico to, we go to Puerto Vallarta for vacation.
See, that is so awesome.
It is. It's that part of it. The freedom to do it is a big part of it, and you need to be a little bit fortunate or hopeful that your wife is supportive of it. I have a lot of friends that absolutely are passionate to fly, really good pilots, but their wives often will say, "Hey, I don't want you, the kids and I aren't going to go in here. I don't feel comfortable. We can't take the kids," and that kind of, you lose that whole adventure side.
Sure,
of it,
sure.
And that's, to me, one of the biggest draws. So
the funny thing with that is they know their husband better than anybody, So
yeah.
No,
well,
I'm kidding. I'm
side,
kidding.
Right?
No, I'm kidding. But so it I've been fascinated. When I say it scared me, but I loved it. Right. So you're up there, and the single engine Cessna, it's a little bit it's scary because you're like, I'm in this little tin can. But man, what a rush it is, and how much fun that is, and to be able to go the distances you travel, and it's you're the responsibility, the danger aspect. I mean, you're confident in what you're doing. You check everything, but there's a rush, I would assume.
There is, and it's but with that, it's also super rewarding. You end up having, it starts from the first time you solo. And in my day, you would fly for like 10 hours with an instructor, and then virtually they say, okay, pull over here, and the guy gets out of the plane, and you're on your own, and you go around the pattern, and by the time you're done, you can't believe you do that. You've accomplished that. But that doesn't end. The next level is you get your license, and you go through your check ride, and you get your private license, and then you go for what's called an instrument rating, which means you can fly in the clouds and have the experience by pure instruments. And that first time that you're by yourself and you come through the clouds and the runway is all lined up and you land perfectly, those are those little steps that you say, this is really cool. I pulled this off.
That adrenaline's probably pumping.
And it is pumping. And even now there's certain things that no matter what, and that's your body saying, you better be careful. You're entering an area that you got to be on your game, and you got to pay attention and no screwing around. But when you get to the finish line, you say, wow, this is a pretty cool thing to do. So
see, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I know that you're a busy man. So in finishing, I want to give you an opportunity. We're here at the beautiful San Pedro Marketplace, the square. You're part of this. This is a big thing for you. Tell us a little about what you got going on here and what people can expect to see in the future, because there's a lot going on that we're not even talking about, and I would love for you to share that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big, it's a challenging time right now. I mean, obviously, as you know, we've had this sort of partial opening where people are allowed, but they're not really able to dine in the buildings. We have all the protocols for the masks and all the cleanliness and all that kind of thing. But in some ways, it's given us an opportunity when things are slower to do an overhaul of the market hall building here as the one you're in. So there's a little bit of a benefit to this slow time. Normally, as you know, a summer night out here, it would be packed,
right? And
we would never dare shutting down a building to go do an overhaul like we're doing. So we've taken over what used to be the Blush Bar, as you know, and we're going to be constructing a tequila bar and overhauling the outdoor patio areas associated with that bar.
I keep sneaking peeks, by the way, every day. I'm like, okay, this is cool.
It's not very
this
exciting
is cool.
yet.
It is for me though, because I'm seeing the little nuances come together, right? And it's pretty awesome.
So it's going to be awesome. I mean, I think it's going to be a next level of, a thematic type of bar experience that we're trying to incorporate a Mexican type of food adjacent to it, and really in that corner of the building get that vibe that I think is very historic for our community here.
We're right next to the Peralta building,
the oldest building in San Jose.
Yeah.
And just all the history that's gone on in this neighborhood. It's not just San Jose, but this neighborhood was kind of ground zero for the earlier settlers here.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that we're trying to tie in to do that. And for me, I think that I'm a tequila guy. I love going down to tequila, the town of tequila. And all of those components for me makes it kind of extra exciting. So we're going to try to have a real special array of tequilas and take from the experience of not just drinking a special tequila, but what are the accompaniments that go along with it? How does it work with food?
Sure.
What are the things that over the years that they've done culturally in Mexico that makes for a real cool experience with the tequila?
I think that's the key though, right? The experience.
Yeah.
When people have that experience, it's going to be like, wow.
Yeah, and try to get as much of the food, like I say, the food side of it.
Sure.
And so I think that part of it will just take us to a different and unique level here with the market. One of the things that over the years, we've just by virtue of how the dynamics of having 20 to 30 food vendors, there's always some level for different reasons of turnover and change. And I think we've always felt that's not a bad thing.
Right.
Because it gives you a fresh look. The next time you go to the market, you go, oh, I didn't know this tequila bar wasn't here last time.
Sure.
Cool, let's go check it out. So it doesn't get stale over time, and it always has a little different twist. So I think in the whole, the pandemic problems in our case has been a benefit to give us an opening to kind of take a look at some of these uses and what we're doing and make them better.
Kind of like the development, right? You put everything together and now something different is coming out of it.
Right, it gives it a fresh feel for everything.
It does. One of the arenas that we're in as well, it's funny because in their mind, every 3 years we need a transition because we want our fans, our guests and whatnot to see new kind of the new things coming out, the cool things, maybe some old things that were still great, but it's a fresh look at all times.
Yeah.
So I think that makes perfect sense.
And the food industry is so dynamic right now, and I don't need to tell you any of this stuff, but how people eat and experience their dining experience is making a big change. And I think it's going to continue as the pandemic, sort of the fallout from this pandemic experience. Are people going to want to be outside more? Are they going to be more separated? Are they going to have, who knows what comfort level they're going to need to really relax and have a good experience.
Right.
So our outdoor areas, we're trying to continue to energize those, because I just think that's the way it's going to be for a while.
For a while,
Yeah.
It really is, and we're living in new times, and we're all trying to get through and navigate. But you know, challenges can be good too. Great things can come out of them. Obviously, we're saddened what's happened with the nation and so on from this
Right.
pandemic, but you know, maybe it's making us a smarter person. You and I off camera were talking about somewhat nutrition
Yeah.
and the values, and together we're the number 10. I want to be 11. I don't want to be the 0 on this 10, you know? So we've talked a little about that, about carbs and all these things. So I think it could be a great thing.
Yeah, I think people's awareness of their health, you know, certainly I think in our area here in California, people are pretty health conscious. And I think the part with the pandemic, they probably underestimated how serious it can be. And it's like, yeah, you have to wash your hands and keep yourself, you know, sanitary. And in the future, I just think that's gonna carry on, and there's just gonna be a little different feel for people's diets and health and exercise, because you got to stay strong to potentially endure some
Something
of
like
these.
this.
So yeah, I mean that's the bottom line.
So with that, you are the man. Thank you for
Right
being
on.
on. We appreciate it. Hopefully we'll have you again if you're willing to come and see
Love
us.
to. Good time.
And great show. Thanks.
All right.